Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Hot Selections here for Sunday, July 7th. Before we get into today's leans, we'll quickly recap what happened yesterday. Unfortunately, we picked up a loss with the UFC parlay on that 3-pick with Askren, Nunez, and John Jones. We were right about 2 out of the 3. Unfortunately, Askren, who we thought would win in a decision, ended up getting decapitated in about 3 seconds for the fastest knockout in the history of the UFC on a flying knee. I know this might sound stupid or kind of sour grapes. I still think that if he didn't die in the first 5 seconds, I think he would have won the fight by decision. But either or, unfortunately, close but no cigar, as our predictions for the main card were 2 out of 3 correct. As we said, Nunez would destroy Holm, and we said that Jones would win in a decision, despite what other people thought. That fight was one of the most boring fights I've ever seen in the UFC, but I personally think Jones won, so I'm not really surprised at the outcome. But unfortunately, Askren died, so that didn't actually help the parlay, and we ended up picking up a loss. However, in terms of today's card, not really much to talk about, as the fact that, well, first of all, the U.S. women did win the World Cup. Congratulations to them. I personally watched 0 minutes and 0 seconds of the entire Women's World Cup, but good for them, as they ended up winning. Other than that, though, looking at today's card, not really a big fan of pretty much anything. So based on that, I'm personally just going to go at the leans today, and then we'll call it pretty much short for today's video. But overall, we're going to start out with some of the games that started in roughly 5 minutes or so. First game we're going to be talking about is the Twins and the Rangers with Gibson versus Leclerc. Personally going to lean to the over 10.5. I'm not a big fan of Gibson. Leclerc's a relative unknown, but he hasn't been great in his career either. Overall, I simply just think that both offenses are solid, and I don't trust both pitching staffs. So far in the first couple of games in this series, you have seen a decent amount of runs, and I think that trend will continue in this one. So I'll personally lean to the over 10.5 there, especially since both pitchers have an ERA above 4, and both teams have pretty below-average bullpens. So I'll lean to the over there. Moving on, you have the Astros versus the Angels with Urquidy versus Suarez. Personally, I'll lean to the Astros. They won by shutout again 4-0 yesterday, as Cole was fantastic once again. For me, I'm going to lean to the Astros here. Angels have been very streaky, hit or miss so far this season, and they're currently, I think, about to head for a downswing. Lean to the Astros there. Moving on, you have the Cubs versus the White Sox. I will lean to the Cubs minus 1.5 here. Hendricks has been very solid this season. Nova has not, and the Cubs, after getting embarrassed in the first couple of games against Pittsburgh, have looked good over the last few games on the road. So for me, I think the Cubs have got the job done. Lean to the Cubs there. Moving on, you have the Giants versus the Cardinals with Samardzija versus Flaherty. I'm actually going to lean to the over 8 here. Samardzija has not been great this season. Flaherty's not been great this season. I understand why the total is at 8 because of the fact that it's in Oracle Park. So you could see how this total is automatically being bet down because of the stadium they're playing in. But I really don't like either pitching staff for this game. I think both lineups should score at least 4 runs, and I think that the Cardinals should win by a score of 6-4 or so. So I'll lean to the over there. Moving on, you have the Dodgers versus the Padres with Lucchesi versus Stripling. Lean to the under 8.5 there. Despite the fact that Lucchesi's numbers have not been the greatest this season, and when I say that, he's 6-4 with a 3.91 ERA. Still solid. I actually think he's a very underrated pitcher. I think he's very solid. Stripling is 3-2 with a 3.45 ERA. I simply just think that this will be a lower scoring game. I think that this game should be in the realm of 4-3 or so. I think 8.5 is too high. Lean to the under there. Moving on, you have the A's versus the Mariners with Mangden versus Kurasidi. Lean to the over 10 here. Kurasidi was good in his first start. Mangden, I still don't believe, is an actual MLB starter, as he was inserted into the lineup due to injuries and suspensions to the starting rotation. So for me, I'll lean to the over here. I think that both pitchers will struggle. I think both bullpens aren't great either. Lean to the over in that one. And the last game, you have the Rockies versus the Diamondbacks. It's kind of weird not seeing a Sunday night baseball game here today, but you have the All-Star break up for the next couple of days. So the last game on today's baseball card will be at 4 o'clock. You have the Rockies versus the Diamondbacks with Marquez versus Young. Lean to the Rockies here. I still love Marquez as a pitcher. I think he's fantastic. And Alex Young, he's 1-0 with a 1.23 ERA, but he's a relative unknown, and I think Marquez will outpitch him in this one. So I will lean to the Rockies in that one. Other than that, in terms of looking at the rest of the card, you have some WNBA matchups, which personally I'm not very familiar with, so I'm not really going to discuss those. And in terms of soccer, you have Brazil versus Peru. I don't have any thoughts on that either. And in terms of the U.S. versus Mexico, I don't really have any thoughts on that either. So personally, not the biggest card. However, there was no tennis on today, and I know that I have not been making a tennis video for the last couple of days, just based on the fact that I didn't really like anything on the card. However, Wimbledon will be resuming tomorrow, and I will be making a tennis selections video later today. So stay tuned for that. But before we conclude today's video, quick reminder of our sponsor, PointsBet. Online sportsbook in New Jersey, a couple of great deals for you, up to 2 risk-free bets up to $1,000. So if you end up betting and you end up losing your first 2 bets, you get your money back and don't have to worry about making up your bankroll. Other than that, that's going to do it for this installment of Scott's Selections here for Sunday, July 7th. We'll be back with a tennis video later today as well as a play of the day tomorrow. So that's going to do it for this installment of Scott's Selections. A good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.